Namaskar. Welcome to Discourse number 85. In the previous discourse, we have examined and learned how to recover the state of pure intelligence known as consciousness. And how the subtle body comprising manas, ahankara, and buddhi have to be transmuted in order to attain that state of consciousness. And in the previous discourse, we have examined one such aspect of the subtle body, that is buddhi. Now in this discourse, we will examine the ahankara, another aspect of the subtle body. And how this ahankara is formed and how it should be transmuted in order to attain the state of pure intelligence. The heart-mind field has to be purified to see the bottom of a lake through muddy, turbulent water. There is no clarity in a turbulent mind, in a confused mind, in a disturbed mind. The spiritual practice of cleaning past impressions, known as samskaras, is therefore necessary for consciousness to evolve. Ahankara, that is called ego, the second aspect of the subtle body, plays a valuable and vital role in whether or not expansion or evolution of consciousness occurs. It is essential for our evolution, though it is viewed as a bad and evil by many spiritual practitioners and masters. Ego is not evil and bad. It is the active functioning of the mind, the doing, thinking function, the doing, thinking function. And we need it in every aspect of our daily life, without which living becomes impossible. It gives our identity. It is the activating or initiating force If it is used wisely, using our discriminating power, it serves us in a positive way, like any other resource. But it is often misused and abused. And this is what we commonly refer to as being egotistical. When the ego is used for a selfish purpose, we become very arrogant and self-important. Whereas if we constantly refine it, consciousness develops very rapidly. Therefore, what does it mean to refine the ego? We need to cultivate virtues laid down in niyamas such as Saucha, Santosha, Tapas, Swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana. Through these virtues, when we cultivate them sincerely, with utter devotion and dedication, ego can be refined, and we can form more humility. We can become more modest and humble. The more humility we have, the less egotistical proliferations. The ego will not escalate. The ego will not blow. We mean we should become more humble before all creatures. Patanjali and others and other great spiritual teachers, sages, had given so much importance to this aspect of character formation. When we cultivate these 5 principles laid down in yamas, we can formulate our character, flawless character. And these masters have valued these virtues so highly that character at any cost must be maintained, whether towards a child, a poor person, or a stranger, or towards other creatures in the creation. The philosophy here is that there is nothing wrong in thinking yourself to be great and unique. In fact, yoga philosophy always says that each human being is unique, distinct, singular, in his or our own way. But always think the other person, other creature in front of you is greater. And this is what is known as humility. Thinking great is nothing wrong. Thinking oneself great is nothing wrong. But thinking the other person in front of you is much greater than you reflects your humility, your humbleness. This is what happens when we cultivate those virtues. We need to become more and more humble. We need to develop more and more humility, without which our living becomes meaningless. Respect for the other creatures is of paramount importance in our living, in order to maintain that ecological balance, in order to maintain that distinct character of biodiversity in the creation. Otherwise, creation loses its sanctity. The planet will be converted into a graveyard. So ego can be like a black hole. It can have the greatest gravitational pull upon our own consciousness. The black hole sucks everything in it. It will not allow consciousness to expand. Just as the Earth's gravitational pull does not allow us to fall into infinite space, likewise, our ego can hold consciousness to its core. By refining the ego, by becoming more and more humble, consciousness can expand infinitely. In fact, ego manifests in many ways. For example, let's take the field of painting. In painting, if I paint an image, it gives so much joy. And the viewers reciprocate accordingly. But as an artist, I will not be happy unless I surpass my previous paintings all the time. So the manifested ego makes me paint more scrupulously and elegantly. But to think that no one can paint better than me is not a welcome manifestation of ego. Ego can be our best friend in helping us outperform our own past records. But it becomes a powerful enemy if we think that we are great, nothing is greater than us, all else is inferior, all else is insignificant, then we are bloated with ego, and that is dangerous. And that aspect of ego, that evil aspect of ego, Ahankara, will not help us evolve and experience the state of consciousness. And this is what Ahankara is and how it plays and helps us in evolving consciousness. So in this discourse, we have examined the role of Ahankara, the second aspect of subtle body. We have already examined Buddhi, the one aspect of subtle body. In our previous discourse, when we meet in the next discourse, we shall examine Manas, that is the lower mind, and how it functions, how it plays and helps us in evolving ourselves and experience that state of consciousness. Namaskar.